Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. It has been 2 years since I recorded an update and posted. I was kind of overwhelmed with where to start. There is literally no way that I would be able to update everything that has happened in the last 2 years. I've doubled the amount of surgeries that I've had. I had an 86-day hospital stay at Cedars-Sinai in 2017, months spent in New York. I had a baby. It's just been a long 2 years with a lot of hardships and a lot of blessings. So I'm going to be answering a series of 30 different questions that were submitted to me by friends, followers, fellow EDSers, etc. I will try to make it sort of brief. Answer-wise, I live with my illnesses and my conditions every day, so it's hard for me to know what people do and don't know about it because it's normal for me. So to see the questions that everyone was asking was actually really incredible. You guys did an awesome job. With that being said, here we go. The first question is, how did you manage to finish high school? Honestly, it was a lot of hard work. I did have 3 neurosurgeries throughout high school, and there was definitely a time period where I did not think that I was going to graduate. I was thinking about just trying to get my GED so that I could finish up and not have to worry about school as well as being sick. But I would not have been able to do anything that I got done without home hospital. I had been on and off home hospital since the 6th grade actually, but throughout high school I had the same teacher named Kara, and she actually is the reason I graduated. I would not have been able to finish high school without her. She helped me with every single step and worked with me at my pace. There was also a lot of amazing people at my school, especially my principal, Mr. Bova. He worked really hard with me as far as being able to still participate in the senior activities in 2016, even walk with my class when we graduated. So that's a huge part of it. And Linda Baldwin at the district, as well as the teachers at Foothill, who were always very, very understanding with me. A huge motivator was my family. They really had my back as far as finishing and doing that final push. So that's how I did it. Question number 2 is, have you gotten depressed throughout the process of your illness, and have you had days where you just wanted to give up? Of course, especially when I first started the whole journey with my illness. I was not able to continue on with my swim training when my shoulders kind of gave out. As a kid, my entire world was swimming. So at 11 years old, to suddenly have the rug pulled out from under your feet, that was very hard for me. I had days where I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to go through the routine. It took a long time to get used to that, but at this point in my life, I've learned to cope. And I have an incredible support system who, whenever I get frustrated, I have a shoulder to cry on. Whenever I get upset, I have someone to vent to. I absolutely have had those types of days and those types of feelings. They don't last. That's the biggest thing. Just remember that it's a feeling that is temporary. Question number 3 is, what has been the hardest procedure or surgery? That's a really hard question. As far as pain-wise, surgery, it would be my tethered cord surgeries or the bone graft from my original fusion. For some reason, anywhere your lower back area, at least for me, is much more painful than anything else. But emotionally, I think when I got staph infection and had to have my entire 10-inch incision reopened and cleaned out, I was put on IV antibiotics for months after the fact. I had incredible anxiety about that incision getting infected again. Number 4 is talk about some of the day-to-day things that you've had to modify and change. I struggle with keeping up on my to-do list, essentially, but I feel emotionally sometimes I have a hard time. I don't always want to listen to my own boundaries. I need to learn how to ask for help a lot more. That's definitely one of the hardest things, is accepting help or asking for it when you need it. Little day-to-day things that are challenging, I wish I could just go out there and drive. It's really hard. Even just going to the store, because if someone's wearing really strong cologne or chemicals are spilled or anything like that, strong scents can trigger my allergy crisis and my throat will close. Learning the triggers definitely has helped. I do have some food allergies, but not very many. I mean, I can't go to the movies and see certain movies because they have strobe lights and seizure warning and whatever, and I'm on epilepsy medication, but it's just not a chance that I can take. It's a small example, but it's It's little things like that that are just kind of like, ugh. Question number 5 is, how is it having a daughter and parenting with a chronic illness? I have a 1.5-year-old. Parenting her specifically is not super hard. I got really lucky with a really easy kid. I have my family all around me for when I need help with her extra assistance, and her dad's family is a huge help as well. They're all incredible with her, and if I ever need like extra help after surgery or if I'm in the hospital, like they're super willing to work with me. So between both sides of her family, like we really have it covered. And I think like really the only big challenges are like lately my shoulder has been really bad. Like after a dislocation I wasn't able to lift her, but I have a lot of help in my house for that kind of thing. She keeps me active and she keeps me going, and she's really a bright spot in my day even when I'm not feeling well. There are aspects of it that are really difficult, but overall she's a great kid and she brings me a lot of joy. Number 6 is, how are the recoveries from surgery? It really depends on what the surgery is for, how extensive it is. Out of all the things that my body does not do correctly, skin wise, I heal better than the average person that's not sick. My dad and grandfather have really good like skin healing, and so that's good, at least as far as like incisions and scarring go. I also have like a really high pain tolerance, so generally speaking recoveries are not too rough, but again it just kind of depends. Question number 7 is, do you often feel like you're missing out on certain things, and if so, how do you deal with that feeling? Throughout the last decade I have definitely had feelings like I'm missing out, like I don't get to do as much as other people. But at this point in my life, it's just something I've learned to live with, and I just try to be grateful like day to day for what I can do. I know that things could always get worse because I've been there. And so for as well as I've been doing the last couple years, like I can't complain. Question number 8 is, what would you say to, or what advice would you give to your younger self? When you're young, especially like 13, 14, you're very nearsighted. You can't see the bigger picture. I think I would tell myself to be happy for what I have, to enjoy every single little moment because it's never coming back. I feel like I spent a lot of time worrying about the future and I missed a lot of like what was happening in the moment. So I think I would tell myself to slow down a little bit, and to really appreciate it. Question number 9 is a couple questions combined. What was your most recent surgery? How is it going? And after you're recovered from it, do you have any plans such as furthering your education? My most recent surgery was my left shoulder, and that was 3 days ago. It was a slightly more extensive surgery than they expected, but the shoulder had needed to be fixed for almost 2 years now. Before it was fixed, it was dislocating every single week. So it feels really good to have that like weight lifted off of my shoulders, no pun intended. As far as recovery, it's really painful. It was a lot more extensive than my previous shoulder surgeries, but it's really like the last big thing going on for me. And so once I'm healed up for it, I do plan on enrolling in some online classes at the very least. I know that for a long time I'm probably not going to be able to work a regular job, but even like patient like advocacy work I can do from home. And for the purpose of like health insurance, I definitely do plan on enrolling in some classes. And other than that, really my plans are just to take it one day at a time. Question number 10 is, who has been through this process with you consistently? It's a really good question because the people who have been by my side through everything could literally never get enough recognition. I do have a huge support system, but off the top of my head, definitely my parents. They've been through good and bad with me, and fought like hell. My grandparents on both sides, they are never-ending support. They show up in any corner of the country for surgeries, procedures, when I'm just really sick and bedbound and need help. They are really, really incredible. My dad's sister and her best friend, so Auntie Lisa and Auntie Sue, are part of my surgery entourage, and they show up at the drop of a dime. My mom's sister and her family cover me when I'm on this side of the country, extended hospitalizations or ICU admissions and things like that. They all show up to cheer me up and make me laugh. And definitely I have like a handful of really close friends who absolutely have been there for me from the start. Lindsay and Coley have been there for surgeries and slept on hospital floors, as well as celebrating being healthy. My friends Bailey and Coda have been around through a lot of stuff, and Coda flew to New York to come see me after surgery once, and Bailey spent nights in the hospital all the way in Cedars in LA for me. Definitely my friend Jay comes and keeps me company, and she's brought stuff to me from the hospital. My best friend since elementary school, Jerry, she's definitely a huge one. She's come to visit while I was really sick and sat in the ER with me and came to pick me up from surgery and drive me home once. And those are like the type of friends that I really appreciate. I mean, some of them have been around since the beginning of my illness and have stuck through thick and thin. And some of them are kind of newer in my life. Like Evan, we got close over the last year, and he's really just been there for me, no questions asked. My support group locally, my movie night crew, who all come over and pig out on snacks and watch movies in my bed while I'm recovering from surgery so that I'm not doing anything too crazy, but I'm also not getting lonely. Definitely my cousins, my cousin James, my cousin Spencer, my cousin Natasha, Aiden, Kate, and Solen, my cousin Jake, like all my cousins, really big time, have been there for me. And then I have all of my like really important like chronic illness warriors, especially fellow Dr. B patients who make New York home away from home. So thank you to everybody who has ever like really been there for me and supported me. Even if I didn't name you by name, all of these people are super incredible. Question number 11 is, what are your goals for the future? My goals for the future would definitely be able to get back into school and eventually hopefully a career, even if it has to be from home. That would definitely be a big goal for me. Another big goal for me would definitely be to give back to the EDS community as much as I have been helped, because without a doubt there are people out there that I would not even be here without their advice and their help, and I would definitely like to pay that forward at some point. The rest of my goals have more to do with my daughter than myself. I definitely want to be able to watch her grow up and be the best parent that I can for her and provide her with everything that she needs in this life and everything that she deserves. So yeah, those are my goals. Question number 12 is, how do you keep a smile on your face when everything gets overwhelming? And there are two answers to that. Answer number 1, I don't. When I'm feeling very overwhelmed, I break down and cry. I have my little hissy fit, and then it feels less overwhelming. I think it's really okay to let your emotions out sometimes. And then the second answer to that question is, because I have learned over time that if you don't laugh, you will cry. But I would definitely rather make light of a situation, if at all possible, and laugh it off rather than cry over it. And my entire family is really like that. They're all very positive people. We try not to let ourselves get down, and I will mention again my incredible support system, who literally carry burdens for me when they're too heavy, and so does my faith. Number 13 is, do you have any advice or words of encouragement for people who are going through similar medical situations? And honestly, there is no cookie cutter answer for that question. It is different depending on what the person is going through. It is different depending on the situation and who it is and all of the above. But I guess blanket statement, my advice would be to enjoy the little things. Even when life is hard, there's always something to enjoy. There's always a silver lining. So definitely that. Ask for help, whether it be emotionally, physically. Like, don't push yourself. I know it's difficult. I know it's not easy. It hurts your pride sometimes, but you have to not look at it that way, because I guarantee you, like, the people that you're asking for help would much rather help you than you hurt yourself or you get to a point emotionally that you can't take it. I'm a firm believer in, like, everything happens for a reason, even if we don't know what the reason is. And so to trust that process is really hard, but it's really important. So that's my advice. Question number 14 is, what are some small accomplishments that you've had? Honestly, it depends on the day. Some days, literally just getting out of bed is an accomplishment. But overall, I guess I'm pretty proud of how far I've come with keeping different illnesses under control better. So my mast cell, when I was first put on IV Benadryl, I was taking Benadryl every 2 to 4 hours, and fast forward 2 years later, and I on average take maybe 2 doses at the most every day, unless I have something else going on, especially like right after a surgery when my body's recovering. That's kind of how it fights back, is the mast cell kicks up. Or like my epilepsy, I'm finally on the right medications and haven't had seizures in a long time. And even my POTS is pretty well under control with heart meds and everything. So that's little accomplishments here and there. Question number 15 is actually really an interesting question for me, because no one's ever really asked me. So number 15 is, what are Angel MedFlights like? So the way that Angel MedFlight works is you have to be essentially in critical condition or bad enough that you're not able to fly commercially. Angel MedFlights is a company who flies those people to their necessary doctors or for surgeries or medical related traveling. So the process of the Angel MedFlight is they come get you, whether it be from the hospital or from home, and they put you in an ambulance and they transfer you to the nearest small airport wherever their plane is waiting. The planes are not like commercial planes, they're tiny Lear jets. On the inside, they're not even tall enough for you to stand up. Usually it's the 2 pilot seats and a door that closes that off, and then in the passenger part is enough space for like a gurney for the patient to lay down on. And then there's like 2 seats for accompanying passengers and 2 seats behind for the flight nurses. So there's 2 flight nurses on board. And in my case, I need to have an IV running because like, my body's not in great shape, because it's a lot on my body to fly, especially with the spinal fluid pressure condition that I have, because when the atmospheric pressure changes like with altitude as it does with flying, it can really mess with that condition. So I get horrible headaches while flying. A lot of times they just give me pain medication to help the headache. Usually I'm on oxygen, and I'm always hooked up to like leads so that they can monitor my heart rate and my oxygen saturation. There's always a stop because the plane is so small that it doesn't hold enough fuel to make it all the way there. So you have to stop and refuel at some point, and then you take off again. That's essentially the whole process. It's been life-saving for me because there's no way I could have survived a commercial flight. I had to make it to my doctors on the East Coast, so it's really an incredible service, and I'm so grateful to them for how much help they've given me, and also to my doctor who recommended it and made it a possibility for us. Question number 16 is, how many surgeries have you had and what were they for? So this surgery this past week was number 20. My first 2 surgeries were shoulders. Third one was a fusion with Dr. Henderson. Fourth one was a fusion through the front with Dr. Henderson. Fifth one was a fusion with Dr. B, as well as a Chiari surgery. I had a bone graft for one of those. I've had 4 port surgeries where I put all the way to sleep because I don't go under enough with like twilight sedation, so I was actually waking up on the table while they were putting the port in, so they ended up having to put me all the way to sleep. And so all of my surgeries for ports have been actual surgeries in an OR with anesthesia. So that's 10. I've had another 2 shoulder surgeries, including the one that I just had. I've had 2 tethered cord surgeries. I've had my diaphragmatic pacemaker placed. I've had a revision of one of the leads when it got like herniated. I've had the infection surgery, 3 more spinal fusions because I've had 6 in total. So hopefully that's it for me, knock on wood. This is the end of part 1 of the Q&A video. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for part 2.